welcome to the MacK and ChucK Show with your co-hosts, Chuck Hill and Scott McKenzie. On tonight's episode, we're discussing LGBTQ Pride Month.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Can you see my nostrils?
As you can tell, MacK had a few technical difficulties this afternoon.
Oh, I'm still working on it. So, I may change to seeing my beautiful face in full view.
Your beautiful face?
Yeah, well, it sounded good.
Lovely.
Well, Cherry thinks it's lovely. So I guess that's something, right?
Yeah, she got to see both sides of me today.
Hey.
She did, front and back.
Yeah. Thank God I was clothed. Nobody wants to see that. I would have broke everybody's camera.
She was like, not bad.
Yeah. Because that's what I heard.
Welcome to the show, everybody. MacK, how's your night been? Or how's your week been?
How's my night been? Really?
Well, we know how your night's been. How's your week been?
My weekend was fantastic. Got to show Lisa where my grandparents lived, where I grew up. Not grew up, but grew up in Summers.
Nice.
Oh, wait a minute. We might be onto something.
We talked a little bit about that during our summer show.
Yeah, we went to Indianapolis Zoo, got pictures of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Nice.
It's a good time.
Nice. Very cool. So just want to invite you guys, welcome everyone to the show. Appreciate you being here and tuning in tonight. As you know, you're watching the MacK and ChucK Show. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about Go Cubs. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about LGBTQ, the community, and we're going to be talking about Pride Month a little bit. We have quite a few guests on tonight to kind of share some information with us, just kind of maybe educate some of us a little bit about some of the things that we don't know about the LGBTQ community, and just kind of what that looks like as far as the show goes. So,
He just fell out.
I'm not sure, but I think we're about to. Well, I think we might have MacK on here in a few minutes. We'll find out here in just a few seconds. But yeah, we're going to have Nicci Kincer on the show. She is the founder and president of Alton Pride. So she's going to come on. And you look like at the beginning of one of those old 70s movies. We can't hear a word you're saying.
No, I don't. No, I don't look like one of those beginning of those 70s movies because I'm clothed.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And everybody appreciates that.
Change your camera settings to, if it says 720p already in the video area, change it to 480 and then change it back to 720.
Gotcha.
I promise we do sort of kind of know what's going on here. Just
No. You know what's going on here. I just take direction. Sometimes
technology just doesn't like to work the way that we'd like it to.
Technology just doesn't like me, period.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about that this evening. We've got a couple on that's they're going to share some information with us as well. And the whole point of the show tonight is just to kind of educate ourselves a little bit about some things that maybe we're not familiar with, or some things that we don't know about. And if you have questions, I highly encourage you guys to ask questions.
How about that?
Yeah, that's much better. Much better. I'm gonna change this up here real quick. There we go.
Whoop.
So dang, we look like we know what we're doing now.
Well, it only took me 5 minutes plus 30.
And just think, you had all day to do that too. Sorry, man. So anyway, yeah. So we're going to switch gears here first before we get started, and we're going to be waiting for Nicci to join us here soon. If you would like to join us this evening, you can click on the link that's posted in the comments, and also you can call us directly at 618-507-9066. That's a direct line into the show as well, and you guys can dial in.
Just keep you on your toes, Larry. Just keep you on your toes.
So
reminds me of that. Remember that skit with in Living Color? Boy, this is a great house. Get out. Too bad we can't stay.
So every week on the show, if you're joining us for the first time this week, we have a random thought of the week that we do.
And you've already forewarned us of yours.
I have forewarned my co-host here, both Cherry and MacK. Mine's a little messed up, and sometimes
no, that's not what you said.
No, that's not what I said. But I'll keep it a little cleaner on the air. So
he can't even do it.
That's how bad it is.
Yeah. So I was listening to Tom Papa and Sal Volcano, or Volcano, or how you pronounce his last name, from in Practical Jokers on the way home, and they were talking about breaking bread, and about sharing starters and things like that. And I just thought it would be a fun prank, not to actually do, but a fun prank to like have a Christmas gathering or something like that with a family all around. You're handing everybody their mini loaves of bread, and maybe it's a coconut bread, and you hand it to everybody, and they're eating on it. They love how it tastes, and they ask what kind of bread it is, and you tell them it's FTT bread, and like, FTT bread, what's that? And I'm like, find the toenail. I told you. I warned you. I told you.
You didn't submit that to the show as an idea or
he
anything.
cracks himself up, ladies.
No, I did not.
Really
yes, I do crack
He's
myself
having a
up.
good time.
All right. Well, we see. Please continue watching.
Yeah.
So,
those are the ones that you're like.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do. Someone found it funny.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
They're just trying to stroke your.
Exactly. Fluff his feathers.
Wait a minute.
So as we talked about, tonight's show is all about Pride Month, and learning more about the LGBTQ community and gaining some understanding. And a lot of people have questions and things like that. So I'm very, very happy to bring on our first guest, Nicci Kincer. And as I mentioned earlier before, she's the founder of Alton Pride, and I believe the current president of Alton Pride also. So we're going to bring Nicci on real quick. Bring her on here. Nicci, have you joined us?
Hi, how are you?
All right.
Good evening, young lady. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Can you hear us okay? I think we might have a bit of a delay. That's okay.
Did you ask me a question?
Yeah, we'd ask how you were doing.
How you doing?
I said fine. I'm great.
All right, Nicci, thank you for joining us tonight. We definitely appreciate it. And I got to tell you, it's been a long time since I've seen you, so it's really nice to hear your voice. Thank you for being on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess let's just kind of start off a little bit. Well, let's talk about Alton Pride, how it got started, and then let's talk a little bit about Pride Month and just kind of how that started here in the States.
Alrighty. I'm the president and founder of Alton Pride here in Alton, Illinois, and we are an LGBT organization that focuses on the youth of our community and their specific needs. I got involved with the Pride organizations in 2016 in Belleville with an organization called Metro East Pride. They put on an annual Pride Festival on Main Street in downtown Belleville. One of the things I noticed when I got involved in the Pride organizations is we have these annual festivals every year that generate a lot of revenue for our community. But I was a little kind of set back in a way. We have a lot of money coming into these Pride organizations for our annual Pride festivals, but very little resources for our actual community and specific needs like mental health issues, homelessness, anything special needs that a community person might need. We don't have those resources. I started looking at different options and different ways to fund these programs. And in 2019, I got together with a friend of mine named Mike Panic, who is the owner of Bubby and Sissies in Alton, Illinois. And he has always been very involved with the youth through Color Guard and different programs he's done with Alton High and the different school districts. We were talking about having more than just a party every year. Although Pride festivals are very important because they commemorate Stonewall, which I'll get to in a minute. They're very important to the community for a place to gather. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of focus beyond that one specific goal. So we decided to have a Pride, but with our Pride, we wanted to take a portion of the proceeds generated every year and put that into a secured account, so eventually we can open a crisis intervention shelter here and around the Alton Riverbend area for anybody who is LGBT or marginalized, who might have any kind of problem, whether, like I said again, whether it be mental health, homelessness, addiction, or just needing a place to go for companionship. We wanted to be able to open a brick and mortar that these people could actually come to. So that being said, in September, on September 10th, Alton Pride will be having their first Pride Festival on Bell Street from noon until 10 p.m. and in which we will be celebrating the community, we'll be celebrating each other, and we'll be letting people know just exactly what we're out here trying to do. As far as you talked about Pride Month and what it is, Pride Month, June, is to commemorate the 1969 Stonewall riots, which were actually pivotal in our civil rights movement and in the LGBT community. So in 1969, we had the riots. The next year, in 1970, in June, we had our first Pride festivals in every major city in the United States. And we've done that every year since then. And it's grown into a worldwide Pride Month.
So, Nicci, you mentioned let's revisit Stonewall for a second. Back in 1969, can you explain some of the circumstances that occurred that kind of brought that to a boil, and just kind of what caused that riot to take place?
Sure. The Stonewall Inn, it was an LGBT bar in Greenwich Village, New York, and in 1969. Being homosexual and having a place for homosexuals to meet was illegal. The bar was owned by the mafia, and they were paying off the local law enforcement to stay out of the bar, basically. Well, they started pushing and demanding more money from the bar owners. And when they couldn't pay up, they decided to go in and raid the bars. On June 28th, they raided the Stonewall Village, and in the process of bullying and pushing the patrons and putting them in the paddy wagons, the patrons started pushing back. And they decided they weren't going to take it anymore. They weren't going to be bullied by the establishment. They weren't going to be forced to gather in secret. They were tired of being treated as second-class citizens, and they stood up for themselves, and they fought back. And there was a 2-day riot that ensued after that.
Wow. So from then on, you're saying like 1970 on, there was kind of a more stronger push of a movement and a celebration of, I guess, would it be proper to say maybe the freedom of being who you are and just making it known that, kind of in conjunction with the 69 riot, that, we are people, we have just as many rights as anyone else does as a citizen of the world. And then kind of how did it grow from there? Like, do you know some of the people who may have been involved in just kind of pushing that? Now, I know Harvey Milk was really big on the West Coast of, getting this movement going, and that. Who are some other people that you can think of that, were kind of pioneers in this arena?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me these questions. I think Harvey Milk has to be probably one of the biggest ones. We had a lot of people that come in after that, senators, people who just were activists. I'm sorry that I can't think of any right off the top of my head.
I know Barney Frank would be one.
Yeah. Like I said, we've had many. Hello?
Who was that, Mac?
I said it was Senator Barney Frank. I believe he was from the New England area. Representative, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Nicci. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I have to admit, on a lot of the names, I would have to go back and look them up to give you exact names and dates. There have been a lot of people. We couldn't do it without allies. We couldn't do it without the people that we've had that have pretty much jeopardized their lives and their careers to stand up for us people in the LGBT community who just basically weren't going to be pushed in a closet anymore.
Yeah. So let's get back to the community aspect of it a little bit. You'd mentioned that the pride parades are, revenue generators, and that revenue goes to help, LGBTQ youth in need. Well, let me ask this first. Is it still proper to say LGBTQ, or is it LGBTQ plus? Like, help me out with some vernacular that maybe, if we, someone who wants to be sensitive and inclusive, and like, what would some of the proper vernacular be?
I think it's proper to say LGBTQ community. You can also add a plus because there's a lot of different aspects to the community, and it kind of blankets over a lot of different genres, I guess you'd say. So LGBTQ is pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you did mention, helping the community to give. Now, you didn't use this word, but I know a lot of people would say safe space for people, to go if they're homeless or something like that, they have mental health needs. What resources are available for youth, young adults, even older adults that, may be struggling with identity or something along those lines?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that. Starting in July, Alton Pride will be starting a youth group for LGBTQIA youth and LGBTQIA and marginalized youth. I do believe maybe the first one of its kind here in the Midwest. We are actually going to be facilitated by licensed professional therapist. So we'll actually have somebody there with us and the kids who kind of have not a little bit, but they are trained to see any issues that me as a person who doesn't have any, counseling background will be able to recognize. And if we see anybody that might need any help, we can get them immediate care right away. So we've got that. Unfortunately, beyond that, Alton Pride is also, we have a scholarship program that we offer. We also have a resource guide that we've sent out to all the high schools and junior high in the Madison County area. So in that resource guide has just about every kind of resource in it that you could need as far as mental health, counseling, food pantries, homeless shelters, everything that you need. As far as having an actual place here in this area that we can send them to, we don't have one. There is nothing right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so who have you guys partnered up with in the community that maybe you would feel comfortable sharing? So other people know who's supporting you guys as far as commercially or business wise. Like, have you guys partnered up with anyone in the community, or are there opportunities for those who may want to partner up with you guys?
We definitely welcome any opportunity for anybody that wants to come aboard and help us build. Right now, we've worked with, we have a brand new nonprofit that we started working with last year right here in Alton. to give out, like we gave out food baskets at Thanksgiving, and we did pictures with the Easter Bunny, that kind of thing, for donations. We've also, Metro East Pride happens to be a big supporter of ours. We just started getting our different sponsorships from the Pride Festival, and we have, of course, Bubby and Sissies in Alton is a big supporter. Alton Main Street is a big supporter. Beyond that, you know, we're kind of a little fish in a big pond starting out. So we're still, we invite anybody that would like to partner up and come and help see this mission through.
Sure. Now, you know, obviously, Nicci, when we were, you know, growing up and we were in high school, you know, the social acceptance and the social viewpoint of, you know, homosexuality, same-sex marriages. I mean, LGBTQ community, I don't think was like even a thing back then. But
no,
go ahead.
I tell people all the time, I came out when Melissa Etheridge was singing Yes, I Am, and Ellen DeGeneres was Lebanese. It was the end of the AIDS epidemic, and if you were queer, you were the reason AIDS existed, and you were treated as such. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we all went to high school together. And I think you guys all remember, I can name drop Scott Tripp, Vince Shieldman, Danny Burris. I think you can remember all how we were treated by our peers back then, and it wasn't very nice. And I do want to say to you three, you guys were always wonderful people. You were wonderful people to us. You were always kind. You were always supportive. And if I never told you this when I was a kid, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay. 6-year-old me appreciates that.
Shut up, Scott. I'll still beat you up.
I know this. That's why I'm on the other side of the microphone.
I think it's great what you're doing, Nicci. I mean, really, everything. I didn't realize that you guys had so much going on with your programs, with the scholarship that you're coming up with, and everything like that. That's really blowing my mind. I'm really pleased to hear that. I am curious though, have you guys had to deal with a lot of pushback from, you know, not so friendly people, or, you know, have you guys been pretty much welcome from the get-go?
We have been, I will tell you, we've been blessed, to be honest with you. When I get an opportunity to speak on what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do, we've been very, very fortunate. We've gained a lot of momentum in a very short period of time. Like I said before, we started this before COVID. When we opened our meetings up prior to COVID, our last meeting before shutdown, we had over 40 people in attendance and 3 representatives from different school districts and gay straight alliances that wanted to get involved and get these resources to their kids and get support in their schools for their kids. Then COVID came, shut us down, and it's been a struggle to get back going, but it's just because of the climate in which we're in. But now that we're getting momentum going, it's crazy. Yes, we have a lot of support.
That's great.
It's wonderful.
Awesome. So, Nicci, we're going to bring on a young girl who she actually identifies as pansexual. So one of the things that, you know, I do kind of want to ask you is, you know, there's a lot of terminology that's out there. You know, you have lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, transgender, transsexual. You know, what are some of the what is some advice that you would give to a parent, let's say, you know, that doesn't completely understand what their child is going through or whatever, and, you know, they want to be supportive. I mean, they may not particularly, you know, agree, or maybe they don't understand what's going on, but what is some advice that you would give a parent as well as a child to have that communication and have some open dialogue?
I think the first thing that the parent needs to remember is that just because they have a child that is queer, they didn't do anything wrong. That child is not broken. They didn't raise them wrong. Nothing happened to them that made them be this way. They were born that way. And the best thing as a parent you can do is love them. unconditionally love them. We are losing kids at a higher rate now than ever before in history because they're not being loved by the people they are supposed to be loved by, their parents. If you want to support your kid, there's a wonderful thing now called Google. If you have a question, Google it. There's a whole bunch of information out there just waiting for you to absorb.
Yeah, one of the challenges I have with Google is that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you on the show, is because when you Google something, you can find all kinds of wrong or misleading or misdirectional information out there.
You're correct, and that's why it's important to talk to your child. Talk to your child, find out what they're feeling, find out what they're thinking, and go from there. Yeah. You've got to establish an open dialogue with your kid, and it's not any different than if you were talking to your kid about their day-to-day life in sports, or their day-to-day life in the debate team, or their day-to-day, who your kid's friends are. Be interested in your kid. For Christ's sake, put your cell phones down and talk to your family.
That goes for pretty much anything.
Parent your child, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. So I have something here. Lisa says that she's missed part of the show, but do you guys have meetings or gatherings for the youth like Growing American Youth was?
Yes, we do. Starting in July, we will be having a meeting place where the kids can actually come and congregate together. We'll have different activities throughout the month for them to do. If you are all interested in finding out about our youth group and more about our organization, you can find us on Facebook at Alton Pride. We also have a volunteer page. If you'd actually like to get involved, you can go to Alton Pride Volunteers and request to be a volunteer. And that will keep you up to date on everything that we've got going on.
Okay, awesome. I was just about to ask you if there was any kind of informational resource that you could give, and thank you for doing that. Nicci, thank you so much. Okay, Scott's got a question. I'm not booting you, Nicci. I'm just going to bring on our next guest, but Scott's got a question.
Nicci,
you're fine.
I do want to let you know that this next guest is very near and dear to my heart. It is my child. So you will be. I hope you stick around and listen to what she has to say. And I say she, and I'll explain why later. And her and I have had numerous conversations on this. Numerous. We are very comfortable.
If your child, just to put this out there, if your child identifies as she, then by all means, you're doing the right thing, sir.
Well, stick around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nicci, I'm actually going to bring her on and keep you on live on a show also, just in case she may have any questions. And also, folks, if you're just joining us and you have any questions, Nicci, are you open to answering questions that people may have?
Sure, I'll do my best.
All right. Awesome. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and drop those into the comments, and we'll get those answered for you. But right now, I am actually going to bring on Akira. She's going to bring her, come on here. Akira, are you with us?
Kiddo.
Yep.
Hi,
Hello.
Kiddo.
Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
So, as you've heard, we've been talking with Nicci, and she's involved with Alton Pride. But Akira, you actually identify a little differently, or more uniquely than what some other people. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the term that you used was pansexual, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of us who might not completely understand what that is, can you just kind of give us, kind of how you view pansexuality and just kind of what it means for you?
How I view pansexuality is there's two meanings to it. One of which is you're attracted to all knowing genders, male, female, non-binary, I guess.
Okay.
Or you're attracted to someone's personality more than looks.
Okay. Now, is that more of a mental attraction, a physical attraction, or kind of a combination of both that just kind of melds into one emotion?
It could be if you are attracted more to someone's looks or their personality more, say.
Gotcha.
It all depends on the person.
Okay. Now, Akira, you used a term that a lot of people aren't going to understand, and that's non-binary versus binary. Can you help just kind of explain that a little bit?
Not non-binary, from what I know, is that people don't identify as female nor male. They just identify as, pretty much, from my understanding, whatever they wish. I'm guessing.
Okay, so kind of would it be considered, and Nicci, you can jump in here too if you have a response. Would it be more of a gender neutral or more gender fluid, or what could be a more, and maybe there's not a definitive definition for that.
Non-binary is not essentially being bonded to the stereotype of male or female. You are a person, an entity, a being of your own. You are male, you feel female. You're not constricted to one gender only. You feel fluent in all those directions.
Okay, so when we're talking about, well, let me ask this, Akira. At what age, and you don't have to tell us what age you are now, but at what age would you say that you started feeling the way that you do? Like, what was it that kind of made you start questioning the norm, or what's considered to be the norm?
I guess whenever I was sort of going out through middle school, I believe.
Okay.
That seems about right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start having questions about that time. I mean, I went through stages of my life, where I had those questions and just kind of had to search who I was. So I can totally.
Are you still having those questions?
I'm not having those questions.
Got me to it.
I always knew there was something funny about you.
But yeah, no. So obviously your dad knows. What was it about the relationship between you and your dad, or you and your mom, that made you comfortable having that conversation? And like, what was the catalyst, I guess, or what was it that made you decide, hey, I want to talk to my parents about this? And maybe there's something that someone else who may be, what was that? And kind of explain that experience, if you wouldn't mind, or share that experience.
Pretty much what caused me to, I guess, reach out was whenever I was starting to get more confidence as I was going through counseling. And my counselor, sometimes close to the end of our sessions, would bring both my mom and dad, if they're available, into the room with me for the last few minutes, I believe.
And what was that main word that you wanted out of us?
If I had your acceptance.
Do you feel that you do?
Yes.
So was that I can understand that that's probably a nerve-wracking experience. I mean, were you nervous at all while you were having that conversation?
Very much so.
And when you guys had that conversation, what was it that your parents, how did that conversation start? And Akira, the reason I'm asking is because there are a lot of people out there that don't even know how to begin that conversation or start that conversation as a young person, a young adult, or even as, a grown adult.
I guess the main thing that I can say is for someone to full out come out to their parents that they're bisexual, transgender, all of them, is self-esteem and self-confidence are two major things.
Okay, well, we have a question for you. Lisa is actually asking, says, as someone that is currently in the school system, how do you see the environment? Do you feel there's much acceptance and approval for those that choose to be different?
Yes. At the high school that I go to now and the middle school I previously went to, there's a lot of acceptance for people that are LGBT or in that community. I remember from whenever I was in middle school, two of my favorite school counselors had they were like very, very accepting, and even one of my school counselors had carried around tiny little pride flags.
Oh, wow. So Nicci,
That's
just
great.
to kind of give you that same question, because you came out at a different time than what Akira is. What was that experience like for you?
It was completely not accepted or supported in the school system that we went to. We were bullied by our peers. Some of us that ran around in, I think you guys can remember our little group. Some of us were bullied by administrators. I think there was actually a couple different times where Scott and Vincent was actually bullied by one of the coaches. So, I mean, it was a completely different thing. I went to a youth group that the youth group I went to, Growing American Youth, actually, I think was pivotal in inspiring me to be who I am today and saving my life. I was in a very, very dark place in high school because of the environment that we were trying to live in and survive in. And we had a youth group in high school. You guys might remember Empathy.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Hogg ran Empathy, and he saw
Jack Hogg
that I
saved
wasn't.
my life. I'm not gonna lie.
Jack Hogg is, yep. Anyway, he saw that I was a kid in need, and he referred me to a counselor who was a counselor in our high school, the psychiatrist named Harriet Grazeman. And we lived in such a time that when Harriet Grazeman gave me the number to call for Growing American Youth, she put it on a Post-it note. She folded it in half and slid it across the counter and said, "You didn't get this from me," because she could have actually lost her job for giving me what essentially was a lifeline. So that's the kind of environment we were in then. That was in 1991.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the group you're talking about. Yeah, Empathy for sure. And Jeannie, Jeannie, thank you for tuning in and listening. Jack Hogg.
Do I need to take over? Do I need to take over?
I think we all feel that way about it, man.
There was not a nicer human being that I've met as a child, or that I can look back on and say that it impacted almost everyone that he interacted with.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Cherry's got a question for
Nicci,
you guys.
I was just curious, and if it's too personal, then definitely no need to answer. But I'm curious how your parents reacted. Were they supportive or not so much?
Before I go into it, I do want to say that my parents did see the light in the end. I have a different relationship with my mother, and thank God before my father passed away, we had reconciled our differences as well. But no, when I came out of the closet, they were not supportive. My mother told me it was a phase. I didn't know what I was talking about. And my father at different points was just he was abusive about it. Yeah, it was not a good situation for me. And unfortunately, there are hundreds and thousands of kids today that share that same experience today. And I just want to take a second and Scott, what you and your wife did is absolutely, you have a child. And because of your parenting and your willingness to love your child no matter what, your child will be here for the future. And there's a lot of kids out here that won't be because they don't have that love and support from their parents.
100%.
So kudos to you, my friend.
So Nicci, that brings up a really good point. We talk about, mental wellness, mental health, and suicide rates and things like that. I guess I can ask this both to Akira, you, and to Nicci. How, Nicci, as an adult now, do you see adults dealing with this dealing with their feelings and emotions and that differently than you did, 10 years ago. And to that point, Akira, after Nicci's finished, I'd kind of like to know, what you hear, as a young lady in the school system, from your peers, as far as what they're going through mentally, emotionally.
I think that we now thankfully live in a more socially accepting environment. We have people who are in our age group, and you guys can put it out there if you want to, but we have older adults who
I'm
now
only
feel
25, so I don't know about the rest of you, but
Oh, whatever.
okay. I just did the math the other night, and we graduated 30 years ago. Okay, so
Come on.
right, isn't that great? So that having been said, thank goodness we do live in an environment where people our age are more comfortable coming out and living their authentic lives now, where they didn't previously. So I do think that it's better, but I do think we still have such a long way to go, because gender and sexuality is a very broad spectrum, and the more knowledge that we can put out there, the more understanding we can put out there, the safer we're going to make these younger people feel, and they won't engage in self-destructive behavior because of it.
And Akira, thank you, Nicci. I appreciate the words. And Akira, what are you seeing as a young lady, that has high school age peers? What are you seeing in as far as social acceptance, mental health issues that may be going on around you? Do you see that as being a problem still, or what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on a person's backstory as influence on them from that younger age, as because I remember that there was a few kids in my 5th hour class that made very inappropriate remarks to me and a few other young women in that class.
So you still see some verbal abuse.
Yes.
That kind of goes.
You can call it verbal abuse. I know the situation that's being referred to, and it was more of it was understood that it would be taken care of, but it was still 30 years later, it's kind of the boys will be boys type is what I was told. And I said, if it's conversation, that's one thing, but when it becomes physicality, that's when I get involved. And to put it quite bluntly, the shit is going to end.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever a time for people to be physically violent or even verbally abusive to
I
another
don't think it
human
was
being.
physically violent, but it was more a stepping in front of or approaching. Let me put it that way, an approaching.
So Lisa says that I always have looked up to my parents. All growing up, they had accepted my friends with open arms. I have many friends that felt they could confide in them, and that my parents are always there for them. My house always tended to be the escape from unacceptable home lives. They even became temporary gardens of Jonathan so he could come down here and be with us.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
my mother was the exact opposite. So kudos to Lisa's mom and dad, because wow.
yeah. So, it's interesting because my mom and I have actually had, a conversation where she's asked me if I was gay, and I'm like, Mom, I'm not gay. I mean, a lot of people have thought that when I was growing up, Yeah, but I mean, the truth is, I think everyone goes to a point in their life, whether they admit it or not, that they question it. I think it's human nature. But one thing that my mom had told me was, she's like, Charlie, even if you are, that's okay. And that really
This
meant
is a
a lot
safe
to
place,
me.
Chuck. You can come out to us now.
Come on, Charles.
I have a confession to make. I'm still straight.
You were on the grassy knoll, weren't you?
I was not. But I think that it is important that even if we have, a child that maybe we don't necessarily understand or quote unquote agree, whether it be a moral standpoint, a religious standpoint, or whatever, I think it's just so very important to listen and love, because a lot of people, they miss that. And that's kind of the point of the show, and is to educate people and just to get it through some people's thick skulls. That the mental health aspect of this is going to cause more damage, than anything else. Because when we hate ourselves, or when we think that nobody out there loves us or anything like that, or we think that we're trash, regardless of what the situation is, as a parent, as a family member, or whatever, just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you don't love them and you don't, accept them for who they are. So, and I think that it's important, for a show like this and other shows that are out there, for people to understand that and just really drive that point home. Nicci, what do you see the next steps are as far as this type of movement goes, or as far as educating people? Like, how would you encourage someone? Like, what resources could someone who's not part of this community reach out to and gain some understanding about the rainbow community?
Well, the funny thing of it is just talk to people. Be kind to one another. Ask questions. Take it upon yourself to seek out the answers to the questions. Educate yourself. Most importantly, just try to accept people the way you want to be accepted. We all are different. We all have our different quirks. I think if everybody would just realize that we're all just human and we're all just trying to get through this thing together, or, I think it would be a lot better place. I think ultimately, I guess I would like to see a world where coming out isn't necessary.
Right.
That you don't have to come out to your peers. You don't have to come out to your family, because you can love who you love, and it's okay.
That's right.
Akira, you have anything to add on to that?
Real quick before I forget to mention, with this may go a bit off topic with what we're currently going on right now, but it's still related
have you watched
to
the show at all?
That's our middle name, off topic. Spew you, kid.
But with as far as sexuality and gender identities go, I also identify as gender fluid.
Okay.
Okay, so it kind of changes on a daily basis, is what you're saying, or maybe even like weekly, hourly. How would you define that?
It would depend about how me or someone that is also gender fluid feels on a specific day. Like, one day I mostly put they with the pronouns that I go by, because it just feels right to me.
Okay.
So one day I could feel like a they them. Next day I could feel like he they. Another I could feel she they. Or it could stay the same for a few days. To me.
So that brings up an interesting question: Is it safe for people who don't know how you're feeling on a particular day just to refer to you as they, and then you can correct them at that? Or like, what would be the safe way to refer to someone who identifies as gender fluid when referencing them?
One of the things is possibly just say, if you haven't spoken with the individual that day, you could possibly use a mixture of possibly the pronouns that you've known that they use frequently, and with a mixture of they in it, just to like not make it like not just a singular gender.
Gotcha. So they would probably
Can I clarify that just a little bit to help
absolutely
clarify that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if when in question, stick with they and them, and don't be afraid to simply ask what a person's pronouns are. If you are in doubt, ask. Someone who is non-binary and gender fluid being a form of self-expression. Whether you dress in a stereotypical masculine or stereotypical feminine, it's a form of expression. So when in doubt, ask that person, because just because they appear to be one thing doesn't mean that they necessarily feel that all the time. So they're never offended. And in most cases, it actually is welcomed to say, hey, what's your pronouns?
Yeah. Case in point, I mean, I won't mention them on like by name, but I have a friend on Facebook. They have two different profiles, and on one profile, they appear as a woman, but on the other profile, they identify as a man. So I mean, and that's one of the reasons I kind of asked that question. When I worked for Hoyleton Youth and Family Services over in Fairview Heights, they were very involved in this community and mental health awareness and creating safe spaces. So if you haven't heard of them before, Nicci, they would probably be a great resource for Alton Pride, especially when you guys get to starting your
I'm
center.
definitely going to be getting a hold of you and picking your brain.
Okay, yeah, I mean those.
Don't
those
do that.
guys
There's
over
not much
there-
left.
This is true.
But I,
I have two brain cells and they're playing freeze tag with each other. Yeah, I mean that's good information to have. Thank you so much for coming on the show this evening and sharing your information with us. And I can't tell you how much it means that when Nicci, when I reached out to you, you were like you'd love to do it, and Akira, for you to be on the show, because if there's one thing I have a huge problem with, it's when there is a movement that's going on, or information, or please forgive me for saying this, a sect or a group of people that desire and deserve equal treatment and free rights, and you ask the question, or you say, I don't understand your plight. I don't understand. Can you educate me? Can you teach me? Can you, let me know what I'm missing here? And the response I get back is, it's not my job to educate you. And, for me, that's a hard pill to swallow, because how am I supposed to understand, and just kind of wrap my head around it if no one in the community is willing to extend an olive branch or, reach out and say, hey, you know what? First of all, I'm glad that you're asking, because I think that's, and I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm just saying that's kind of the response that I think needs to be more common. If
I can't say that I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of funny. If you saw the logo for Alton Pride, it's the actual Alton Bridge. And our slogan is building bridges within the community. We cannot build those bridges if we're not in the community, educating each other. And like you said, extending that olive branch. It is absolutely it's our responsibility to educate people. If you are asking the questions, they should be answered. And it is our responsibility to get out there and answer those questions. Ignorance is what breeds prejudice. Okay? If we can kill ignorance, we can kill prejudice.
I think that's a very true statement across the board, regardless of race, sex, gender, or whatever. So, I mean, and I think that we're seeing a lot of that now also because of the information that has come out there, so I think that's, no, you couldn't have said it better, Nicci.
Thank you.
So, MacK, did you have any kind of, MacK or Terry, do you guys have any kind of follow-up questions or comments?
No, I just have a comment.
Make it.
That would fall into comment.
Hey, kiddo, I love you very much, and I'm very, very proud of you. I love you.
Yay.
Aw. But what about Akira?
What about me? What about me?
That's why I was talking to you, big silly.
I thought it was on. Oops. Sorry.
All right, awesome,
I'm
guys.
so glad
Well,
that Nicci came on and Akira too, because I mean, yeah, I'm really I feel like I'm supportive. Like I felt like I tried to support Nicci as much as I could in high school, and I tried to be kind of the supportive person. I feel now that maybe I could have been more supportive, and I hate that I couldn't have done more about it. But I'm glad to hear that things are going so well, so to speak. But I'm really proud of this organization, and great job, Nicci. Proud of you, girl.
Thank you. And I want you, all three of you, to really understand that you three were three people that very much stand out in my mind in high school as being safe places. You guys were always loving, you were always accepting. ChucK, I think I seem to remember you getting into some fisticuffs over somebody bullying one of your friends at one point. So,
Root.
yeah. So you guys were definitely good people, and I don't want you to look back on any of that stuff back in high school and think you were anything less than wonderful.
I love your use of the word fisticuffs.
Fisticuffs.
Thank you, Nicci.
I was trying to make it sound good, I could have just said you beat the shit out of somebody in high school.
Well, there you go.
That was very 19th century.
All right, guys. Well, thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. And Nicci, before we go ahead and if people have Lisa, the wigs came off.
Just for the record, I miss you, Lisa. I'm so glad I miss all of you guys. I know that you all keep in contact, and I think it's great. And thank you very much for asking me to be on the show. I really enjoyed it, and it was good to see you guys again.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. One last time, Nicci, how people can get in touch with you and find out more information.
If anybody wants to know anything about Alton Pride, you can find us at Alton Pride on Facebook. You can also email us at info@altonpride.com. You can sign up to be a volunteer at our Alton Pride volunteer page. And one last time, our first ever Alton Pride Festival will be located on Bell Street from noon to 10 p.m. on September 10th.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Could I quickly say something real quick?
Say it, dude.
Oh, I was gonna say it was nice meeting Nicci.
I will let her know. Bye, kiddo.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Well, that was good times.
Yeah. I think we had a pretty good show tonight.
Yeah, I could talk for another hour. Let's do it. Bring him back in.
So I keep looking at this, and I think
What are you rubbing
What
exactly?
are you rubbing?
Well,
Shaggy?
I know. I can't decide if I'm going to go back
Throw
to
it back out first.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
What are
it's
you rubbing your cheeks? What are they sore?
I got
Let's get here.
I got
Then we'll start
fuzz on
talking.
here, man. I
Then
got
we'll start talking.
fuzz. So yeah. Whatever.
This is like 2 days worth. No, I'm kidding.
Right. For my dad to be like 1 day's worth. That man
Right.
could grow a beard quicker than like I don't know. I can't even begin to so all right. Well, hey, good show. Appreciate everybody being on tonight, and
Snoochie
appreciate
Boochies,
the
Brody
feedback
Noochies.
on the show. What's up?
Snoochie Boochies, Brody Noochies.
Snoochie Boochies.
Okay, what we got next week?
So next week we have Nick on the show. We're actually going to be talking about addiction next week. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the signs of addiction, addiction recovery. Nick is going to share a little more from his book, and we're planning to have an addiction counselor on the show as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. If you have an addiction story you'd like to share, if you have an addiction victory you'd like to share, that would be awesome. Reach out to us, come on the show, or just you can shoot me a message, or you can shoot MacK a message, or email the show at if you got it. Email the show at MacK2020 at MacChuck2020 at Gmail. I thought you were going to throw it up there.
I thought Cherry was doing it. What's Cherry do?
I don't do anything because he doesn't let me have access to a
There we
computer.
go.
I just sit here and pick my nose the whole show, and every once in a while I throw something cute in.
She gets to look at this for the show.
What the shaggy peach fuzz?
If I had access to any kind of laptop over here, I'd be running it. But ChucK's afraid I'm going to take over. So what can I say?
And just to throw this out here, guys, based on the conversation we had today, I do want to throw this up here as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that's probably something that we should have more often. If you're ever having depressive thoughts of suicide, hurting yourself in any way, shape, or form, reach out to somebody. We want to make sure and put those resources out there for you. Not just because we want you to keep watching the show, of course, but we care about you guys. So, we want to make sure that you have everything that you need as far as emotional needs go. And if you're ever in a spot, reach out to someone. Hell, reach out to us if you need to. We'll make sure that you get the help that you need. Mm-hmm. So, Cherry, Lisa's asking if you're still stuck in the little school desk.
Oh gosh, no, he's at least spared me the school desk. He realized that my rotund backside was just a little too much for the kiddie school desk.
Well, there is a question about your rotund backside. Then, if you do say here, this is what Lisa would like to know.
Well, she does know the way to my heart, so it's been nice, y'all. But
she said,
cherry out
taco pizza. All right, folks, hold on one second. Folks, have a wonderful night and a wonderful day. Akira, thanks for the message. I will get that out there on our list as well.
Absolutely.
But everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. We definitely appreciate it. Hope to see you next week. Addiction Show. If you have any questions, ideas, or thoughts about or for the show, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you guys. And with that,
time for you to get some taco pizza.
We out. Taco pizza.
Bye.